So there was a lot of questions related to the different layers and the setup for the 28 template, and I thought it might be worth talking for a couple of minutes about what the different layers are used for in case some of these things are things you're not familiar with. Okay, so what we have here, and I've set up my layers up here on the border as well as on the ribbon, just because I always am looking for the layer, and sometimes I switch around my ribbons and I always want to have the layers handy. So I've added the layer drop down up here. If you click on the little arrow next to the quick access tools, you can add any of these tools that you want to add. In fact, you can add any command from the quick access toolbar. And I've decided I wanted to have my layers turned on. So I'm going to roll up my ribbon, give myself a little more space for drawing, but I'll still be able to see my layers. Alright, so that being said, what do we have? Well, we have a border layer, and of course the border is going to relate to the border and the title block and any line work that goes on that. Any text on the drawing, including the text in the title block, should be on the text layer. And what I have here is a little isometric drawing, and this should be on the visible layer because these are visible lines, and I'm going to stick it on there. Just like these lines here are visible lines, they are on the visible layer. And visible is just another way to say the edges of the object, the edges of the profile. It's the stuff that if you picked up this thing and looked at it dead on, you would see these edges, right? That's what visible means. So let's talk about some of these other ones that might be a little bit more esoteric. We have construction layer, and if you're wondering what the heck is the construction layer, I use construction lines when I'm drawing. You might have used them too when you were in the B12 class. We use construction lines to project corners to create views. And if I take my front view and I project all those corners up, I'm sure you remember that you need all these corners from the front view as part of your top view. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to start. We can start wherever we want, but you know what? I'm going to start from here, and from here. I'm going to start at that point, and one way to find 1.5 inches away is to just draw a little line 1.5 from there. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to draw my top view, and I'm going to use all of these construction lines to lay out where things are supposed to go. You see, I'm going to know now that I need a line here and here, and a line here and here, because I've got some light construction lines here. Right, so if we were doing this with pencil, you'd be drawing these things very lightly, projecting the corners up to be able to create the geometry in that top view. You would probably do the same thing, going sideways. We'll go back to construction. We will project over, and we'll project over. And then to get the top view into the side view, or to get the side view into the top view, you might remember this little thing called the miter line. And the miter line lets you take your measurements and locations from the top and telegraph them into the side. So we're taking that dimension for the depth and we're wrapping it around a 90-degree corner. And that gives us the same exact size over here. So you don't have to go in and measure things from scratch. If you draw like that, if you draw where you're just measuring things and not projecting things, at some point you're going to make some horrendous mistake. And you'll have no one to blame but yourself. Projection never lies. That's my point. If you project, you'll always know what you did and why you did it. Okay, so this is kind of the setup for making my other stuff. And then I have to do a little bit more projection. So I needed to project every corner into every view. That means this corner has to go into that view. And it means these corners have to go into this view. And it means this corner needs to go into this view. And it also means I have to know how deep this is here. So just like I knew the depth of the part, I need to know how deep this is here. And I do know how deep that is. So I'm going to draw that notch up in the top view. And I know where to start. I start right there, right? So it's 0.065. Oh. It's 0.625. 0.625. That's a little bit different than 0.065, huh? All right, so that's my notch, and then I'm going to use some more construction line to go in there. and then shoot the corner, and I'm going to bring it out, and I'm going to bring it down. And that's going to tell me where to make my hidden lines, because you can't see this notch or this cutout from the side view, but it's there, so we're going to use these hidden lines to represent it. So on my hidden layer, I can add some hidden lines here. Bam and bam. And then this corner back here, same thing, you can't see it from the right side view, it is hidden. So it requires hidden lines also. All right, now I've just done all my projecting, and that was easy. When I'm done projecting stuff and I got my drawing, you don't have to delete the construction lines. That's the beauty of them. You can just freeze them, or you can turn them off, right? Because we don't need to see them on the print, but we do want to have them there, because what happens if you make a mistake? Well, you can always go back in and turn them on and figure out what the heck went wrong and why things aren't where they're supposed to be. All right, so I would say use them if you want to, and then turn them off. Now, not everyone uses construction lines to do drawings like this. And honestly, you don't have to. Not really. You could use another tool on the Object Snapped toolbar, and it's called Object Snap Tracking. So if you've never laid your eyes on this, you're going to like this, I think. Okay, I'm going to go to the visible layer. I'm going to go over to this corner. I'm going to go to this corner, and I'm going to come up, right? And I tracked my point, and I'm going to go up 1.5 inches. Okay, and now I want to make a line as long as the front view is from left to right. So with tracking, here's what you can do. You can acquire the point and track up from it. And now it is as long. And I can go back 1.25, and I can come over, acquire the point, and track to it. You see what I'm doing? I'm basically using a construction line that disappears while I'm working. After I'm done with it, it goes away. So this corner here, I acquire it, I go up, 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 and when I hit, I know I'm there. So some people don't use construction lines. A lot of times it's because they don't spend a lot of time doing hand drawing. They spend most of their time doing CAD, and they're used to CAD, and CAD is great. Old people like me, they are going to remember drawing things by hand, the old-fashioned way. So they're going to work with construction lines. They're going to draw things in CAD like they used to draw things on a piece of paper. And that's why that is there. So I'm going to go over here, 1.5 inches, and then we'll track. So you can see I use construction lines in my first attempt to do this. I'm using tracking in my second attempt. In the end, you get the same answer. So it really doesn't matter which way you do it. Okay. I guess maybe this is one less step, because now we don't have to go turn that layer off when we're done. You could look at it like that, I suppose. Track, 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 and the tracking replaces a construction line. Point 65, and then up. And then this guy here, acquire the point and come over, bang, 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 smash. All right. So 2 different ways to project geometry from one view into another, or to project and line things up. You could use construction lines, or you could just use the tracking. Your choice. Okay, so how about some of these other layers? What else is going on here? Center lines. We know where center lines are needed. If we had a hole going through this thing, we would need some center lines. And if we have a circle, well, a circle would be a center mark. So we would put our center mark on the center layer. Center mark, and bam, there we go. So that covers border, center, construction, hidden, visible. Viewports we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks, so don't worry too much about that right now. We know what text is for. No print. No print. This is stuff you don't want to have print. I know it sounds goofy, doesn't it? But there might be a note, or there might be a little thing on the drawing, but you don't want it to print out. So the no print layer is specifically set up to not print. Right? I mean, that makes sense. If we go to the layer properties and you can get there like I did. You can also type LA to open the layer property manager. It's a shortcut. The no print layer is stuff you don't want to have print. You can either turn that layer off before you print, or you can even turn off the little printer icon here. And then no matter what, even if it's on, and you can see it, it will not print out. So that's what the no print layer is for. Things that you need to draw, but that you don't necessarily want to have on the final print. Hatch is for when we cut something open and we need some hatch lines, some cross-sectioning, right? Some section lines. And then dim. Dim is for dimensions. So if we are going to throw dimensions on stuff, that would be the layer we'll use. So here's our dimensions added with the dimensioning tools on the dim layer. Okay, and that is our little mini tour of the different layers used on the 28 template. Depending on the drawing we're working on, from time to time we might have to add a layer or two, but for most mechanical types of projects, these layers would be perfectly sufficient, and that's why they're included on your template.